Everyone, welcome FlyScapers back to the channel, and this is Aquascaping on the Fly Living Art Creations. I'm your host and content creator, Anthony. Today I thought I would do like some of the little behind the scenes things that I do on the hobby, and I wanted to kind of show you how with doing both aquascapes and terrariums, and now venturing off into an aqua arium. Yes, I think I coined that name. I think I get credit for that. I'm going to show you that one, which is called Water World, more up close. And also right now we're doing getting ready to do water changes in almost every single one of the tanks. So it requires a lot of reverse osmosis water. Now, for those of you who are new to the channel, I live in a community where I cannot use my tap water. It's toxic and it kills fish and shrimp. So what I have to use is I have a reverse osmosis, which is simply these little tiny tubes that come from under my sink that deliver pure RO water, meaning there's no minerals in this water. Everything has been pulled out of it. I have a 3-stage reverse osmosis system with an additional canister that's for chloramine, and that's one of the reasons why I cannot use my tap water, because of chloramine. And I'm going to be doing anywhere from a third to a 50% water change, and I'm going to say this as a premise. Your shrimp, like if you're keeping shrimp like I do, they like moderate water changes. They like minimal water changes. My tanks are all minimum of 3 months to 1 year old. My tanks are used to, I'm just going to say, sometimes a 90% water change, literally, or a 75, or definitely a 50%. So they're kind of like, my shrimp are adjusted to it. Most of my tanks all have shrimp that have been born into the tank, with a few exceptions of the newest builds that we just came online with, which is the Rainbow series. Now, the reason why I sometimes have to do, like today, a lot of tanks at once, I swear I didn't bring it with me. Okay, hang on. Here we are. I keep a log that has my tank information with my GH, my KH, and my TDS, how many days that tank has been under that same water, and if I'm doing a water change, I put the percentage here, and then I have another column where I go over, and then the next week later I do another check to see where everyone is. Now, because I've got so many tanks, now there's over 14, most of them are rotating on their own set schedule. It just come to be where on this section today, I've got almost every tank has to have something pulled out of it, because my when you're keeping Neocaridina shrimp, your GH, they want you to, you know, basically 5-6 to an 8. I know that we can go a little higher in my tanks. My tanks have gone as high as 10, and I didn't even know it. It's before I was counting it, and I was still getting live bursts. And I have read lots of research online that shrimp can adapt to their water parameters, and they can adapt and evolve to where it's not as a hard line pass. Okay, you have to do it at this pH level, or you have to do it when your GH hits this. No, you're trying to get a balance. So the balance for me is when I have a tank that registers an 8, that's when I go into a water change. Now, depending on if it's at an 8, that's going to be more of a minor change out. If it's 8 plus, like if it's that at 8, it still hasn't turned green on the GH, which is what you're looking for, I put a plus next to that, and I don't keep adding reagent to it to see how many extra, you know, dots it's going to have to take to get it to that next level. I just know it's over 8, and that's going to mean a 50% water change for me, because I'm going to attack it more aggressively. Now, contrary to what you would find online almost exclusively, is they tell you to use remineralized RO water when you're doing some of your tank changes. I have found conflicting information on AI about this subject constantly. And I can tell you for my tanks, I do not put RO water back in. I put RO pure water, but not RO remineralized water, because that's adding more minerals back into it. If I already have a surplus of minerals, I've got to take water volume out, replace it with pure so that it mixes and it automatically brings your numbers back down again. Now, part of that for my tanks is the fact that I use only foraged materials from nature. So I am expecting always to have a GH and a KH creep up because of that. I advocate for DIY and doing this as inexpensively as possible. So my one thing that I have got to counterbalance is the fact that I have GH and KH that creeps up. Now, that's not the case on all tanks. Blackfish right over here that you can almost see is one of those rare tanks. It had gone more than almost 70 days without a water change, and its numbers were fine. And I do find that the lower volume of water, the more difficult it is to maintain your parameters. Because I do have bowls and small containers that are a gallon or less. And when I have livestock in them, those require weekly water changes to keep them healthy. So we do have a couple of bowls that always, every single week, require a small water change. But for them, a small water change is 3/4 of that water column coming out, because there's water in the bottom of it that's under your substrate and into the rocks, into the gravel, that you're not going to be able to pull out because you have shrimp in there and they need a place to live while you're doing the water change. So there's a larger amount of water you can't get access to when you have your shrimp in there. Now, if you have a tank that has no shrimp in it and you just want to get your parameters correct before they go in, oh heavens, yeah, you can do a larger water change, but I would never advocate for an extreme, because you need that beneficial bacteria that comes with that water as well. So it is a game of balance. I don't look, though, stringently at just that one number. No, I'm looking at keeping it within a moderate level so that they can molt and breed successfully. That's my main game. I want to be the shrimp breeder, so I do not have to keep buying shrimp over and over and over. I want to be able to put shrimp in their tanks, in their living environments, and let them do the work before we get to the point of putting fish in. That's why I have no fish in any of my tanks for right now. But another consideration also with that's crucial, that we found this out during the recent, if you've watched the video series on the Rainbow Rescaping Event, the Rescaping, is that the lighting. I did specific research on each plant for the lighting it requires to be able to develop, and that's why we set up our newly planted soil, actually potting soil tanks. And what I love about that is that really is a control group for me now. I took each plant that I had just repotted into, reacclimated back to each one of the Rainbow series. And I'm pointing over there because they're just right there. And then cut them all off and put each plant in its own vessel with remineralized water, and made a mud pie out of organic potting soil that's encased in gravel. Now, I did gravel. You can do sand. Or, as one of our subscribers on here, the Solar Aquarius, he uses used aqua soil. Now, I don't have any used aqua soil that I keep. They're all in builds. So what I was looking for is, what is the least expensive method for me to go forward? Well, my gravel is free because I find it in nature and I prep it for the tanks. So I'm putting something in that is natural again. And do check out the post section, because he has a great recipe for how he does his planted tanks that he's been doing all the way back since 1995. So please check that out. So going forward for today, the water process is amazing. Now, you should have seen it last night when I started. I have said at least a dozen times on this channel, I never have to mop my kitchen, or really basically anything in here, because I always flood. I always have a flood somewhere. I was watching television, my drip line came undone, and it's got a potato chip clip holding it in there, came undone, and when I walked into the kitchen was already flooded and it was into the hallway. So I had to use all my towels. I always have towels everywhere, ready to go. I could not believe it. The clip has never failed. I don't know why it decided to pop off. So anyway, we had a flood last night. So now all the towels have been washed and dried and they're ready. And you can see I've got towels set up for today. So what I'm going to show you is, for those of you who love our terrarium side, these are the terrariums that I constantly add things to when you see me put a post out there that I've gone on a layover and I've done some scavenging. So I bring these plants back. I don't put them into a new build because I don't want to build anything new again. I've said many times on here, I am maxed out on space. What you see here is all the space I have. There's not another room to put them in other than the bedroom, and I have stated on videos before, I am not having you guys in my bedroom because that just freaked me out. And I don't want to have a tank in there because I'm a very light sleeper, and if there's any noise from like the fountain pump that just recirculates the water, anything like that, I would be able to hear it, because sometimes the pumps make noise, like, you know, the cord touches the side of the aquarium wall and it vibrates and it makes noise and I can hear it. I can hear it from the bedroom to in here. Well, it's just a few feet away, but I can still hear it. So no, there's no way I want you in my bedroom. So anyway, take that as you want. But these are the builds that are where I first started with playing around with open concept terrariums, because I wasn't always having, even for typical terrarium plants that require humidity, I was not having the best experience. I was having great growth experience in my tubs where I kept all the plants because I never did anything to them. They never got watered. They just sat in their little tub under like 10 hours of sunlight, and they did beautifully. And then over the course of the last year, I have started not using any of terrarium plants, and I've really been focusing just on plants I find that I call trash plants because they're growing in the cracks of sidewalks or along the curb, and it's probably a weed, but my theory is every weed is exotic someplace else. It's just you don't know it yet. It's like in the aquarium hobby, there are plants that grow wild in Thailand or Indonesia that we pay a fortune for. So for them, that could be a weed. Think about that. Think about that. There is not one plant out there that's not going to be special someplace else, and to you it may seem like a weed. So I've got these set up, and I want to say, you guys know, I don't buy anything new if I have to. Oh, it drives me crazy. My tanks, I have to get new if I want a certain size. But, and I always do look for aquarium tanks when I go thrifting. You just never find them, or this is what I hate. They're just as expensive or more than a new tank that you can get 50% off, because you know how I'm a big advocate for waiting until PetSmart has their 50% off, and sometimes they throw another coupon on that. That's how I buy all my tanks. I don't pay full price. I just can't do it. I've even done a lot of research on building a tank. Like, there's a lot of videos out there about how to use IKEA glass. Well, the downside about IKEA glass is the width is automatically 14, I think it's 14 and either 3/4 or a half an inch wide by different lengths. So that means you can have a 14-inch tall tank and that's it. For our water world, I really wanted it inside a tank at first, but it needs to be over 20 inches tall because the top of it, I wanted to put Anubias on the, and you'll see when we're talking about it. Couldn't find anything. I mean, I researched for days on this. I researched water jugs, plastic water containers. The best thing I could come up with is these clear tubs that I'm already using. And I didn't want to set one of these up because when you fill them up, they tend to bow out. Now, I could go a lot more expensive and buy the really thick ones, but then that defeats the purpose because I'm all about DIY and making something work that I already have. So these vessels are all thrifted. Rule of thumb, I've never paid more than $7 for anything I've ever bought. That includes this big, gorgeous punch bowl right here. Punch bowls really are my favorite, but you gotta be careful. I'm not into the pointed ends on a punch bowl. Like a punch bowl, a lot of them have like these little pointed ends on the top. No, I don't want that. That's just going to cut me when I'm out there working on it. And the ones that have too much etching on it, no, I don't want that. I want to be able to have something more of a contemporary look to the punch bowl, or maybe an Art Deco look. Like one I don't have sitting over here, I have an Art Deco one that has etchings of flowers. And it's pure glass with these etchings of flowers in it. It is, oh my God, it's amazingly beautiful. I've done like 2 videos on it because I'm so impressed with it myself. I'm like, oh my God, it's gorgeous. It's gonna eventually have to be redone because I put very little dirt in it. I didn't think it was gonna make it, and it's just thriving like crazy. So, but I like something that's unusual. Like over here in the corner, this is hand-blown blue glass. Do I have to say any more? I mean, God, that's amazing, right? And let's see. This is a fruit bowl. This is a salad bowl. What I liked about this one is it has a rounded top on it. This is not an antique. This was just in a thrift store. But this has rounded. This is what we use for bowl aquariums. This is not the largest, but this one was only $4. And then I've got another salad bowl back here, and then the one that Waterworld is sitting in was one of those things you put out where you have the little containers that go around, and it's like for dips and veggies. So I'm using the saucer, which you would put all the bowls in, with one in the middle that's got your dip in it. I'm using the saucer because it's very contemporary. I have the bowls up in my cabinet, and I use those for different things. One day maybe I'll put them all back together again and use them on something. But I have used that one platter for a couple of things already on the channel that didn't make it. Like I did a yin and yang moss terrarium that was not lasting, and I salvaged it quickly, but it was glorious. If I can remember myself, I'll put a photo in there whenever we get to it in the video, because it was beautiful. And then it started dying really, really fast because it was not the kind of moss that could sit out without a cover on it. So this is what we've got. I've got one more I need to pull out and show you, but I don't have the room on the countertop right now to be able to show it to you. But the first thing that you'll know that I'm doing now, and I've seen a big difference. Like a novice, I was using pure RO water for my plants. I thought that was going to be healthier for them. And I just saw nothing. The plants were dying. Especially, it was very apparent in desert oasis. I was using only pure RO water. And the plants were just nothing. I started switching to, and I don't know how I came up with this idea. It must have been the divine intervention guiding me to do this, because I was having no luck with my plants. I started taking water out of the aquariums one day when I was doing water testing. So when I do water testing, I got it right here. I take my handy dandy little turkey baster, and I take one full sample of water, bring it over to the sink, shake it up inside there, and then pour it into, here it is, this container right here. So this is the picture I keep. All right, I don't want to drop it. This is how we spill water in our kitchen. Okay, so then I go back to that tank, get another sample. That's what I use for my GH and KH. And then put the leftover back here in this picture. So all the plants now are getting not only remineralized water that has all the nutrients they need in it, plus there's liquid fertilizer in every one of the tanks. They're all dosed. And I want to give you guys an update. I am no longer using the liquid fertilizer. I think it's called, hang on, Leaf Grow from API, Leaf Zone. I'm no longer using that because I had noticed there was some spotting and discoloration on some of my boosts. And you know, to me, the most important plant I have is a boost. I am boost man all day long. Boost does no wrong to me. And so when I saw my boost suffering, I'm like, we gotta do something. Started doing research about it. I had no idea. I was following advice of another channel that I've started watching in the very, very beginning when I did a deep dive into this hobby, and I never did a lot of research on some of the products. I was just going off of other videos. And so once I started converting to my own research, I'm switching to, well, I've already done it for 2 doses, Thrive S all-in-one, because it's specifically made for tanks with shrimp. And it has the necessary ingredients in it that Leaf Zone does not have, that directly affects boost plants. So all your epiphytes. So I've done my 2nd dose, and it does not lead to any GH or KH creep up. So that part is amazing, because you can dose with Thrive S up to 3 times a week. So now I'm not home enough to do that. So what I'm trying to do is like every 3rd day do a dosing. And it's super easy. 1 pump, and I'm going to show you, it's right behind my camera. 1 pump, that just means 1 swoosh for every 5 gallons. So on my rainbow tanks, 1 pump. My 10 gallon, 2 pumps. And then so forth. And so I'm going to give you my bargain bin advice on this one. You can buy this size for, I think it was $25, the bottle, and about this size. Or you could buy, if it's in here, yes, this size, which isn't even the largest. I went with this because I thought, well, let me see if it works first. Massive savings. I bought this plus 2 bottles. These are their bottles. You can choose the color. I chose green, so I remember this is always fertilizer. For an equivalent of, I think it was like months worth of a supply versus 1 bottle. This is 1 out of here. I've just done 1 of these, and I can tell by the weight, I can probably at least get 4 of these, maybe 5. I don't know yet, so we'll see. So I've just now started over to that. Okay, I don't want to drop anything. And we're also going to be turning up the lighting. That's another thing I found out. So this is going to be a balance here, because we're having trouble. When I did the video for the Trinity series at 1 year old, and by the way, pay attention to the thumbnail on that video if you've not, when you see it. I was in shock. My plants were like, you know, this big, and it was like vacant. Please do not freak out when you're setting up your tanks for the first time. Keep in mind how big that plant's going to get when you're planting it and spacing it. It will grow. And when I looked back, I was like, oh my God, no wonder I was freaking out that I had no growth. Because you don't see it. It happens gradual. You just don't see it when it happens. So that's my big takeaway. And when I looked at that, I was like, oh my gosh, my tanks had nothing in them. There's just big void. Well, okay, that's just normal. So don't freak yourself out. Don't put all that pressure on yourself. It will fill in. So when I saw that, and I had wished I had been using the Thrive back then. So the balance here is I'm using very inexpensive micro lighting. It's 1 strip. It's not probably enough to get the growth out of my Jungle Val and my Rosenvig Mini. That both require at least moderate to high lighting. Jungle Val requires high lighting. So I'm trying to figure out how I can increase the lighting over there at the Trinity series, because remember, it has the branches all above it, and that's where the lighting is, and it's not tailored just to the tank. It's for the plants that are growing on the branches as well. So it's doing, you know, double duty. Now for the other ones, the lighting, like the shelf layer below it, which has Tree of Life, you can see the difference in the plants in it. And then the next one to it is our Zenith. And it has only epiphytes, which don't require the highlighting. So it's just really the Trinity series that are more at jeopardy with the lighting issue, and I'm going to have to figure out how. I'm going to go up to the highest level, which I've never done that. It's always been half. I probably should have paid more attention to this, but I'm going to see if I get anything without having like some massive spike. Now, even at half lighting, one of my tanks gets blackbeard algae in it, I let my shrimp eat it. It doesn't get on a plant, it gets on the wood only, and they eat it up. So it's a food source for them. And it has nothing to do with lighting apparently, because those tanks are a year old and I've only had 2 outbreaks and the lighting has never changed. So I hope that answers up any kind of confusion for you guys. And as always, please put a comment down there if you ever question anything and want more information about it. Okay, so now, you know, this is the water we have, and I'm going to show you, I'm going to take you one by one and go and show you just how I do a little bit of watering, and if there's anything I want to talk specifically about each one of the vessels. So let me get the camera moved around and we'll get started. And thanks for joining me today. Okay, first one up. This is a plant that I got while I was on layover in Leon, Mexico. It's not blooming right now, but I'm going to give you a close look. It has red flowers on it. Now, this is a succulent, and here's your downward view. So all I do with, especially a plant like this, and look, when I planted this, it was all, okay, it was all at this base level right here. It was like an inch above. It has grown like crazy. So I'm just gonna put my hand in there. Okay, so some dirt came off, but it's not wet. So taking our handy dandy turkey baster, I'm just gonna go in. There's not even any moss in here now. There was a little bit. But it kind of stays too dried out. Now, this one, of course, can be dried out, because where I found it, it was as dry as a bone. But it seems to be enjoying this water that it has. Okay, this one's super, super easy. This is exactly how we're going to do all of them. Okay, so my punch bowl. Okay, if you guys will notice, here's a little sprig of the Mexican plant. This is another trash plant. Here's a brand new trash plant that I just picked up on last week's trip. Don't ask me where I was, I already forgot. This is a rattlesnake plant. This is a Rex begonia. This is Photonia. Now you'll notice on the Photonia, they're not tall at all because I keep cutting them off and experimenting with them. This is moss from Lake Washington in Seattle. Oh, it's an amazing place to go get moss. This is what I water. I water the moss. I don't water the whole thing. I just make sure the moss gets watered. And I did see, I have this sitting up in front by the window on a bookcase that's right by the patio door. And I saw that during the sunlight, it was actually sending up new shoots, and it looks like, I believe it's when they go to seed. There's seed pods that were coming out. Now the Rex begonia has not taken off yet. It will dominate like crazy. It has in my desert oasis. And that's why I've kind of like started experimenting, because a lot of my terrarium plants are doing actually better now that they are, you know, not in. Okay, so this Photonia right here looks like it's dead. It's not getting any light. And this one is also on the brink because they're underneath this plant right here. When they were planted, that Rex begonia was not like that. That Rex begonia was not taking absolutely all of the resources out of here. So this is a native Texas fern, hasn't done much at all. Of course, I have no idea what this is. This was just something I picked up in a curb. And we've gone over the other ones here. I love this because this is the second layer of moss I have put into this container. So I just put it on top of the existing one that's underneath it. It didn't do well without being in an enclosed space, and I wanted a moss that would grow well. That's why I switched it over to the one from Lake Washington, because it's growing outside completely. And so that one is now done. Oh, and I wanted to show you. I forgot to give this one its shout out. This is an adorable $4 toolbox I found while I was thrifting. Look at this. It's amazing. I used it as a planter for a little bit. It didn't work. But now it's going to be a toolbox for aquascaping. So when I say you guys need to thrift, you need to get out there and see what you can find. Okay, here's going to be a fun one because this is literally nothing but trash plants. This is a stick from Lake Washington. This is from Lake Washington, this little fungus there. This I just picked up in Raleigh. I had a layover the day before yesterday. I picked this up. This was on a curb. A little bit of Photonia, not doing very well. A little bit of my little Mexican plant, not doing as well in here because I just threw it in here. Here's some grasses from the week before. Oh, this is actually from Lake Washington. I just put some little weed grasses in there because I think, oh, they're kind of cute. And a Photonia and another Photonia. And then this tiny little plant that if you guys watch our aquascaping videos on, is growing quite successfully underwater. Yes, you heard that correctly. So I'm just going to go in. I really hope my little grass grows because I always like to make these as, you know, natural as possible. Now I'm going to try, well, and see, this is why some things don't grow as well, because they get too much water in a container like this. So that's why you kind of have to have the mindset of you're going to be putting other stuff in there to compensate until you get that right, you know, balance. So I've got new plants in there that I do want to grow. So there is your, okay, I always have a hard time with this. I need a proper camera setup. Did you guys hear that? I need a proper camera setup. All right, one more down. This is also a really good way for me to get a really good look at what is going on in each one of the plants. Now, what's doing really well here is one of my native Texas ferns, another rattlesnake, a leaf that is not dying but not growing from one of my layovers, have no idea what it is, some pine cones, a plant that I've cut off so short it's not growing, and a little bit of this which grows really well in most of them. This may be what's dry right now, and I know it doesn't like to be dry. I try to water these or spray these down every week. They don't get sprayed down as much as possible, if they could, but I try to. And now I have these under the same lighting, the same type of lighting that's on the aquariums. It's the single strip, and it's on for, I think, 9 hours, but it's not on high. And then, of course, the little twigs that I put in there are also from layovers. All right, that one's done. Okay, this one has always been a fan favorite. This one has orange isopods in it. Here is a prayer plant that was in Desert Oasis that wasn't growing. I put it through a piece of bark, and so the roots are underneath the bark inside here. Local Texas fern from Longview, Texas. Rex begonia that's doing very well in here. Another trash plant right there. More of my Texas fern, but from a different location. And then moss. Moss, don't ask me where it came from. I will not remember that. This moss has been in here for quite some time. But I'm super excited that the Texas fern is doing well. I sometimes have a hard time with ferns, especially rabbit's foot fern. Now we'll see if our isopods come out. They normally come out when I water, you know, because I'm like invading their home. Now this had a lid over it. This had a plastic saucer, a clear plastic saucer. The Rex begonia just pushed it right up. So I thought, okay, you decided that you wanted to come out. There you go. What I love in here is that the moss is green. It's doing well since it started getting watered with aquarium water. And the prayer plant started coming back because it's getting watered. I just to make sure that I can get some to get down in there. Well, the orange isopods decided to not show up. That's too bad. They're so much fun to watch. And you don't have to worry. They do not escape the build. They don't get out and crawl around like my sister. My sister, who's a huge fan of the channel, I gave her a trim that had some in it, and she just freaked out because she thought there was going to be bugs everywhere. I was like, they don't get out. They don't leave. Oh, okay. So I did a series of 3 that had these great dried mushrooms in them. And this is the only, well, one's in Desert Oasis. Okay, so you can see here's that same plant that was in others that's doing quite well. Here's that same small plant that's in the aquarium, and a little Photonia. That's about it. I've got moss in here that we're trying to keep alive. But I found a huge piece of dried moss. It's the white kind, and it's in the shape of like it's almost like a seashell. And it's in Desert Oasis. Which, by the way, Desert Oasis, if you guys check out it, I want to do a video specifically on it because it is just growing insane. I just love it. But for you guys who have not visited the channel, Desert Oasis started out as Kong Skull Island, a massive embark on the epic movie that Jack Black was in, and it looked, I'm not gonna lie, it looked freaking amazing, but it was destroyed by gnats. So once you get gnats, give it up. Just give it up. Get you the zapper. You're not gonna win. They're gonna win. Okay, so now that one is wet. Put a little mushroom back in. You can see right here it's got 2 new leaves coming out on its rattlesnake plant. Okay, I wanted to show you this really quick. This is a fern that I just snapped off on my last layover, and then some plants that were growing outside. They're both kind of the same. They're spotted, but I'm going to be placing them in a couple of builds. I don't know which one yet. The ivy, I'm probably going to put in one of the aquariums, just because it does really well to watch them root before you move them on. Now here is my 2-year-old Christmas moss. Or Christmas cactus, thinking moss. And just pour the water in. It was getting RO water for a while as well. It's done so much better. Okay. This is Waterworld. There's a leaf that's came off. All right, you can already see I've already put one of our pink dotted one of the white dotted, some of the plant that you've already seen, Photonia, the Mexican succulent, another terrarium plant that's back here in the corner, and then an ivy growing on the side. So let's turn this around. And you can see there's just water in the bottom. And I had wanted this completely submerged, but it's just too tall. So I'm going to try this to see if right now the moss on top is moist. So the moss apparently is taking its water in from the bottom layer that's touching the water, and it's distributing it across because it's wet everywhere. And that I love. So I'm hoping that this is indication of new growth right in here. It has stayed green. Matter of fact, let me show you. Okay, can you see the difference? It is completely green. So it does not appear that we've had any die off, which is amazing. Now, if you want, you could probably change the water out. I added a little bit yesterday when I came in from my trip because I thought it was a little low, but I don't even have to keep the water filled up to the top, and it is on a medium light because most of these plants to start out may need medium lighting until they start to grow. I'm hoping that this ivy will grow up the structure. That is my goal. And the rest of them can just take root, and it could be just kind of like, it'll really give me that island look that I'm going for. But that kind of gets you up to speed on where we were with the terrarium plants. Now I want to go through just a real quick, this is how I set up for a water change when you have multiple tanks. All right, so we're going to do an easy one first, and I'm going to show you my setup. These are the two tubs that I use that is for my water changes, and they're color coded. So you can see, I'm going to show you, see there is a blue chip in this one. That means that's the good water. That's the water you're going to put in. So that's the tubing that goes with that water. In this one, you see there's a red chip. That's the water we're going to throw away, and that's how I keep them separate. So all I do is, this is a recirculating pump that I use when I am going to remineralize the water in a tub. I use this to circulate for at least 10 minutes, and it mixes all the water up. So you know you don't have to worry if you're going to do a testing on a spot of the water and it's not consistency across the entire water volume. Now, because I'm going to be doing this right at the sink, we're going to do a bowl first so you can see how extreme I get with the bowls and changing them out. So we're going to flip your view, hopefully, yes. All right, there, you've got it. Now this is pink. She is not under lighting, so her colors are not going to show up. So here is my discharge tube. I'm going to place it in the pitcher that I use to water everything with, because this is good water for our plants. This is going to be to water the ones that are in bigger pots and the ones that are in the fireplace, desert oasis. Now, there are shrimp in here, but they're smart and they do not get in the way of the pump. So what I do is I just set the pump inside there. We are going for a high volume of water to pull out, and I'm looking for my notes to give you guys an idea. Pink, when I did her water testing, she's at an 8+ under GH, and her KH is a 7. Her TDS is a 217. Now, there's shrimp in there. There's always been shrimp in there. They breed. They're doing fine with what they're under right now, but I do consistently weekly changes. And so I'm going to get it turned on. It's starting to vibrate. It'll go down at the bottom. And it's already pulling the water out. This one is quick. Since I have moved these to the shelving unit and they're not on the tabletop, I don't put as much water in them now as I did, just in case, I bump into the shelf. I don't want it sloshing out. So it doesn't have as much water in there as it usually does have. But I do want to I want to be able to fertilize this water. And I want to be able to get the brightest pink out of this. It's not looking as vibrant as it normally does. Could be a fertilizer issue, could be a lighting issue, because again, this is on the micro strip and it's got one little strip above it. And some of these plants, especially the Rosa, she's more of a highlight kind of girl. All right, so all I need is one pitcher full for my plants. So now I can just take the picture away. And now it just drains into my sink. I used to drain these outside and then I was like, I just drained into the sink. It will naturally stop when the pump cannot pull any more water out unless I bury it. And because we have shrimp in there, guess what? We're not going to bury it. So you can hear the noise it's making. It's done. Pull it back out. Just let the runoff just drain into your sink if you happen to have a small setup like I do. Now, so the one thing we're going to do at this point, there's always a little bit of tannins coming off into this tank from the wood. And I've got some leaf debris that if I can get out now. And if you have snail problems, like I always have snail problems, I just get the snails that are out. Okay, so I'm just going to do a wipe. And I'm going to show you. You can see already that, yeah, there's tannins are being released. So here is one wipe around. So what I do, just fold it over. Now I'm going to go a little bit deeper, which needs to be kind of wet so I get some of the water of the tank on it. And then I push it down to the substrate without crushing my plants. I do not move my wood structure because it's there for a reason. It's because everything is planted around it. You can tell if you can see me doing this right now, there is very little tannin at this level of the water. It's more higher up. Okay, so we back around. Now, I keep going around, and it's even tannins at the very top. I'm not going to scrub this out with anything else because guess what? I don't want to stress my shrimp out any more than I have to, but there's what I got off of it. Toss it. Now, we're ready for the water to go back in. Because I'm lazy and I used all my extra pumps, I'm going to be using a pump right into my RO water. And I'm going to go right on this piece of wood right here. Now you could pour this in if you wanted to, really, really slow. Sometimes I do it like this on the side, and see, I can see my shrimp down there right now. They're like, oh yeah, it's water time. When I do my water changes, the shrimp all come out. I think it's because they know I'm stirring things up and there might be something new in there for them to eat. I do put clips on these bowls as well if I walk away. But because I'm doing this on video, I'm just going to hold it. I'm not going to take the risk of messing up. So that's probably, you could count the water that's in the base there. So I'm guessing this is probably like realistically a 60 to 70% water change. So now all the tanks are going to get this same pure RO water in them. All you're doing is taking out the majority of your water in relationship to where you want to keep your parameters at for your GH and your KH. And that does come with practice. Okay. It's that easy. I thought I saw a little spot that I needed to pull out. I don't really see it. Let's give you guys... Hopefully now that I've switched to Thrive, my Java fern will start growing. I've never been able to grow Java fern. It just has periods of dying, more rapid dying, slower dying. So I'm hoping that now that I'm switching over to something that actually might help it, that I'll see some results. Okay, so that gives you a really cool view right there. And I was trying to see if we can see the shrimp. I don't see them swimming in right here in front of us, but let's move on to the next. Oh, quickly I wanted to show you guys that I ended up placing the one piece of the ivy and the other strand of one of the plants I picked up on the last layer into pink. Okay, so next up is 3G, because this one is almost a 3-gallon. We're going to do the same procedure we did on the last one, except we're going to drain it straight into the sink. This does have babies in it, and they know how to hide. I go on the lower end of this one. This build it's been split. Where this log runs across here is a divider line. The substrate on this side is much higher, and it's much lower on this side. So it was supposed to be able to give me a really nice viewing room of what was going on in the build, since I knew I was always going to have like probably babies in this. But as it comes out, they like to hide all over the place. And I couldn't get anything. I had things growing down in here, but I couldn't get anything to really survive down in that section. It was really, everything is really on this one side, clustered on this one side. This is a wild Texas fern that I got in Longview, Texas. This is a one leaf that I found, I can't remember where it was, but you can see it's now starting to grow, and I've just placed them together on top of the logs. So this is perfect. That's why your hardscape in there sometimes can serve way more many purposes than you think it might. This is great to put your anything that you want to grow that's in the aquarium to help filter it. And for me, I'm trying to get the fern to grow and also this pothos. But I like this one because it's a green on green striation in there. I think it looks really, really cool. The babies that are in here, they are settling down into, okay, so I see them. They're not tiny babies anymore. I can see them. I mean, they're still babies. They're not even juveniles yet. They're still babies, but yeah, I can see them in there. They have markings of red on them. And so as long as they know the drill, they get down into the lowest point, they'll be fine. The most I've counted in this build were five babies in there. So all the adults were taken out and moved to other builds. This one is also going to have tannins on the glass that are not coming off. So when you see me do the spin around where I'm trying to do the clean off, this tank has tannins that are on there. They probably need a SOS pad, which means when this build is taken apart and done over. Alright, so I like it just to have a teeny bit of water on this side, and then the deeper part is down here. So that is perfect. I'm trying to see. I saw some babies. I see one. They're kind of hiding. All right. Now I've moved my light closer to you guys so you can see. And now I'm worried that I'm not going to have any room. Oh yeah, so I just knocked my whole plant all off. Now snails. Snails come in my tanks because I got rocks in nature, and after 2 boilings, the snails were still on them. The cells still survived. And what I like to do is when they're not baby snails, but a little bit larger, I like to crush them into the build inside the tank. And then the shrimp love them. They love to eat on them. Because your snails can get quite out of control. Let's pull our plant out of here. And, oh, there's an ivy I stuck in there. Yeah, the stuff that's on there that I never got off from when it was new or newly put in there. I think I was like worried about getting in there and messing it up. And so once the tannins are in there and you don't really notice them in the water, you don't think there's anything wrong. And then all of a sudden when I went to clean it, I was like, oh my God, the tank was really dirty and now I can't get them off because they're stuck. So that's the best I can do. I'm okay with that. All right. There's a little Anubias in here that looks like I'm trying to grow. And now I have not cleaned out any of my builds as far as with a, when you do water changes and you use the siphon. I've done it in one and I loved it. I did it in Blackfish and it looks amazing because it has a lot of sand in it. But the other ones, I really haven't done that yet. And I have ordered a smaller one for the smaller tanks because I tried it on the 5-gallon because it really needed it because it has a lot of debris in it from whenever it was set up, and it was too bulky. The whole thing was just too bulky. Oh, okay. I see 1, 2, definitely 2 babies. I like to see them so I can get an idea of what their coloring is going to be. I believe these might be 4th generation of the Blue Dreams that came out with funky colors. Now this one gets rather heavy. So normally what I do is not fill it all the way to the top. I fill it up. Like this is about good, and then I'll do the rest once I put it back on the shelf. Okay, and that's what I'm going to do on this. I'm going to, let's see, I want these to stay together. See, the roots aren't that long yet because they're all new. I want this little ivy, if it's going to grow, to stay. So I'm trying to, let me see if I can get off some of the part that is not growing. Okay, there's new growth on it. That is amazing. I'm loving that. We know the pothos is growing. The ivy, I don't even see a whisper of a root yet. Oh, that sounds like a novel. A whisper of a root. Alright, is it? Okay, it will be in water by the time I'm done. So let's still try, get the ivy in there. Alright, I want to do the same thing we did with your view. Okay, let's give it a twirl. Uh-oh. Don't fall, don't fall. And push it on the plants in the back. There's something. I'm so impressed with this one. It was so easy to set up, and it's always been very striking. I love how I divided the substrate into two sections because it gives it a lot more drama. And it gives you a place to really focus. Like, it's really good to look at the front section where it is deeper, and that's where their cave system is for the build. Alright, so let me see. No, I don't see them right now. Okay, let me put it on the shelf. Okay, so I hope you guys can hear me because you know I'm not wearing a mic. I'm using my old camera because I'm being lazy. I have opened the door to the patio because I'm using these little 5-watt pumps. They are not powerful, but if we go with gravity, the water that's coming out of here will run downhill and run outside a lot faster. So what I have set up already is my extension cord. Please be careful when you've got electricity and water together. So I try to always make sure that the cord is on one end and the pump and the tank that I'm working on is on the other end, just for safety. Here is my pipe tubing that's going to go ahead and go into the pump. And all I'm going to do is make sure, critically, that the tubing goes outside before I start and doesn't move. It does have a tendency to move when water goes into it. Okay, so I'm lucky. My patio is bricked and there's an opening at the base for drainage. So I just put the tubing outside and it goes into the grassy area right outside my unit. Now, you can see I've got tape right here. These tanks are all at a GH of 8. So they're all going to get their minimum standard, which is about 1/3. I may go a little bit deeper, maybe. We'll see when I get there. So I'm going to lodge it in. Okay, it's underneath where I want it to be. Plug it in. Just in case. And now you know why we have a red clip again. Because this is telling me automatically this is discharge water. Now what's going to happen is my pumps are all going to go crazy that are inside here, so I'm going to unplug them. There we go. That was one. I'm going to check the flow to make sure it's okay. Good thing I checked. It was coming into the patio instead of going out the patio. I'm telling you, tubing has a mind of its own. And for those of you who at the beginning of this video I said it was early. I woke up super early, like 4 a.m. The sun is now up. That's how long filming takes on some of these videos, because we are still in the same process. This is still the same morning. So all I'm going to do is I just chill out until this tank gets at least down to here. I move it immediately over to this one and then immediately over to that one. If I feel like it needs to be wiped down, I'll wipe it down. Sometimes I don't even wipe them down. I just automatically put the water right back into it. So I'm going to put you guys on pause while this one does its thing, because when we put the water in, I'm going to be using a bigger pump and it goes a little bit faster, and I'm going to show you the entire process as it's draining out of one but filling in another one, and you'll see how this all syncs together quite seamlessly. Okay, so I've turned the lights on for you so you can get a better look into the build and how exactly I'm doing this. So remember, because these tanks all have the exact same parameters, because it's the same water, it's the same substrate, and it's the same plants, and it's shrimp. I keep them all at the same. And so what I ended up doing was a 40%, because this had gone just shy of 2 weeks since its last water change, and I did a small water change then. So I'm going to beef it up a little, because this tank normally goes a month without having to do a water change. And this is one of the tanks that always has creeped up GH. And I'm guessing it's because of the materials from nature that I've got in there that are leaching into the water column. But now I want to give you more of a close-up so you can see into the tanks themselves. I'm not even going to wipe them down. I think they look fine. I'm just going to point out a couple of plants. I know we just had the series on the Trinity series at 1 year, but because the water level is low now, you can really see what's going on with the shrimp in there as well. So I'm going to move the camera around and hopefully we'll get a good checkup on them. Okay, there's something that I forgot to point out yesterday that I wanted to bring up again. For those of you who are setting up maybe your first type of tank or a series of tanks like I'm doing, because remember, Trinity is supposed to be 1 tank, 3 vignettes. So the substrate, of course, flows from here to here, here, down to here, and then back up high, and it would come back down to this side. So if you put these tanks like in a weird circle or triangle, their rocks and their substrate would line up. Yes, that's the kind of stuff that goes on in my head. Now here is Atom. Atom arcs up, comes over this direction here, comes into Turtle. Turtle goes all the way down, down into there, and then that arc backs up again to the branches that we got at the top. Now I want to focus on just really, really quick so you can take a better look at the shrimp that are in there. Okay, I know they're swimming around. I could see them. All right, so what we have in here are blue dreams. They are the darker of the blue color. Here they are right there. I have 2 of the, I think 2, maybe 3 of the original that I started with months ago. And then they've had a birthing. They've actually had 2 birthings. One of my females died during birthing. And so she had eggs that did not hatch, but we do have 2 distinct sizes of juveniles in there now. So we have one that's larger, and then there's some in the background right back there. There's one of them that's a smaller size. So I had 2 females that gave birth within weeks of each other. And so now I love the fact that even though it broke my heart that one of my females passed away, she did deliver offspring, so at least now we have a little mix-up in the sizing and the parenting. What I wanted to point out is on my last trip, or the trip right before that, I picked up this little guy, a larger ivy, and oops, no, come on out. And this dude. Let's see. Can I get all 3 there? All right, let's do that. Let's make it look pretty. Okay, you can't even see it. All right, so there you go. So a smaller one that's more golden, one that's more striated, and then just a regular ivy off of a street. So I picked that outside. So I'm going to put them in there, and they're just going to be rooting in there for right now. But when I was talking about earlier about, was it my lighting? Was it the fertilizer? What I'm talking about is this Alternaria rosenvig right here and here. It's not doing anything. It's not getting the lighting because look what is above it is branches with the pothos on it that's redirecting the light. The pothos is eating up the light. So I've got to find an alternative to be able to get light directly into there. Now, you can see the Boost is loving it, but Boost is a lower lighting plant. All my plants that are in the backside aren't doing anything either. So the lighting is crucial for me to get that fixed. Now let's slide over if I can. Yep. To Turtle. And let's see who's swimming. If anyone is swimming around in Turtle. No. Aha! There's one right there. Now, these were first generation offspring from my blue velvet. Blue velvet, oh, and there's two in the corner over here. Blue velvet bred in one pregnancy, 3 colors of babies, which was amazing. It bred these pale aquas, that some of them have a little bit of a red marking on it, but these are mostly pale. The tank that's going to be next, they produced what I called ruby red spotted, and in Tree of Life it produced black and clear like zebra markings. So it is an anomaly. I am loving it. I see it as a miracle, and I'm trying to keep these colors consistent. So I separated all the colors out, and I'm monitoring their breeding to see if any of them are breeding that's not that color in their offspring. So far, I've had no ruby red spotteds born. What's coming out is clear, or the spine is a pale red, so the color is fading quite quickly. But in the black zebra the spotting and clear, yes, those have successfully mated and kept their color intact. So that is amazing. In this tank, I have not seen their offspring yet. So I don't know if I haven't looked really closely. They always hide a lot. I don't know if I have like all males or something, or all females. So we'll just have to wait and find out and see about these. But let's move on. The only thing I wanted to point out here, this is the experimental tank. This is where we've got the terrarium plant, the purple waffle, and then 2 trash plants. This one, which you saw in a terrarium earlier, and this one right back in here that was a street plant. Hasn't died yet, so I'm excited about that. That's a Phytonia, and they're just going to eat it. The Phytonia has been trying to root in another one, but the shrimp eat it eventually. I think because its texture is different, and they just, I guess they like the way it tastes. I don't know. So let's move on. Okay, here, center. Okay, now, Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve. You might see they're a little harder to find. I don't see any of the rubies swimming around right now, but there's one thing I do want to do. You see this stick right there? That's my serpent, and you know how, see how he's molded perfectly to the rock. I am going to bring him up, and okay, oh, there you go. There's one of them right here. And they have spotting like on their tail, on their head. I'm trying to see if there are any. I don't see any others right now. But let me move the camera so I can, there's one. Here's one right there. This one's got, you see the ruby coloring right there? So it's got its ruby coloring right there. And I was really hoping these will be able to produce offspring that have the ruby in them. But so far, no luck on these. And these generally hide. There's a lot of hiding spots. There's one coming up on the rock back here. Oh, nope, sorry. It's decided to go back inside there. Okay, but I'm going to get the snake moved and I'll give you a shot of the snake after the water's been put in, because it's going to float on top of the water. Okay. On this one, I am using a 24-watt pump, a bargain on Amazon. Got it on sale. Of course you guys are thinking, of course you did. Of course I did. Now, this one needs to be heavier because it's got to pump water uphill to our tanks. So hang on and I'll show you how we set that up. And it's that easy. I just took the end of my tubing straight to the tank, put my clip on it, because you know this one will move. It's just very little of the tubing is sitting inside there. And then I will keep a cup like this. I don't drink coffee, so I'm happy to use those cups that came with my dishes. So I won't turn that pump off. The pump will keep running. I'll put the tubing into the cup, move it to the next tank, secure it, and then pour the cup in there. So this is literally how easy your system can be. Now, if you wanted to take time to clean it out first, that's fine. You wipe it down or whatever you want to do, or give you a chance to do a little. It's easier to do a little rescaping when you have your water down. I'll tell you what I have done when I do some rescaping. I take my water that's out of it, I pump it out, I put it in one of my containers, I rescape, I put my water right back into it again. So that's something that I have done that was a lot easier than me trying to get in there into a tank that's full of water and making a huge mess. So the only thing I want to do now is place my plants back in there. I put them on the front side of this, number one, because this wood angle is right there. But I want to watch, I want to monitor their growth, their root system, to when I know, okay, when can I, okay, that is absolutely perfect. It's curving on the branch, no big deal. Here. This one might be a little too long. Let's take that out. Take out this bigger one. Same thing. One more leaf down. Yeah, whoops, too far. Okay, they're both in there and I can see. Now what you will find is the shrimp will go after these things right away, because they will love to graze on them. Okay, so that is going to mess it up if I plant that one there. Let's try back here. Okay, what about that? Is that far enough? Yes, it's going to be far enough. Okay. Those will be fine. Oh, here was another one that I did. So I had another piece of that same ivy that I just stuck in the middle of this spotted Hoya, and it's going to grow out of the Garden of Eden tank. Alright, so I'm going to hold it there, and then I'll let you guys resume once we hit the spot where I'm doing the changeover. Okay, so it's time to do our switch off. Let's pull that out. Bring your cup over. There you go. Trust me, yes, I have spilled stuff constantly. I know the rock where I want the water to hit. Now we're good. Now's my chance where I can see if there's anything floating in here, which there is. And if I want to take it out, prior to really topping it off. Yes, one little leaf. Okay, so you've seen this, you've seen the transition. I want you to see what the snake looks like when it's floating, so that'll be our last shot. Okay, so here's your last parting shot. I've done some plant moving around from the plants that are growing out of the tanks. I wanted to give my snake here some more room. So now, like I loved it from the very beginning, the snake can float at the top. It's so cool because it's molded to the rocks. It fits there perfectly. But the shrimp love it when it's exposed up here at the top level, because it's got all this beautiful Christmas moss on it that they love to feed on. And so I've moved it twice already to get it to stay, and they were already on it. They were all over it. And I want to just show you guys what is so cool about this. This is where Spirit and Mother Nature just amaze me. Look, there's the mouth coming out. I'm going to have to, of course, add more water in so that it does not dry out, because if it dries out, then we won't have that cool effect anymore. But now there you can see the plants. All right, so here's some of the plants that I moved. Moved a couple over here into Turtle, and then I restacked all of my plants back in the corner for the new cuttings that we just did. Okay, so that's kind of the little snapshot of what maintenance is like for me. I hope this helped you guys to understand. Really, this is super easy to do. You just got to be organized and have the right tools at hand. And it was fun. I'm glad I was able to share this with you. It was nice because I had the door open as the sun was coming out. When the camera was off, I was just relaxing and listening to the birds. So it was a beautiful morning to do this. Now, unfortunately, I have all the other rest of the tanks to do, and I can't play with y'all anymore because it's gonna take me all day long, because my RO water system, you saw how slow it comes out. So it's gonna have to be restocking its water. But I want to thank you for spending your time with me. It means the world to me. And also, I wanna give a shout out to my FlyScapers, my collective that is so generous with your likes and your comments. They do mean the world to me. I know this channel has a place out there, and it will boom one day because we're doing something that's different for the hobby. We're not following that trend where we buy everything expensive and high end and just throw it into a build and spend $2,000 and then just let it sit there. No, we're the ones that build it from the ground up. And that's what I love about the channel. So thank you again. I hope you guys have a great day. Until the next video update, I'm wishing you nothing but light and love, and tank on.